After Mass Effect 3, Dragon Age 2, and The Old Republic, BioWare really needed a hit. Is this game the boost their brand needs, or just another slip down the slope of decline? Well, let's find out if we take a look at Dragon Age Inquisition. Now before we get started, we gotta talk about the Dragon Age Keep. I'm not a fan for one simple reason. In my opinion, this should have been a program on the disc, much like the comic book style opening on both Mass Effect 2 and 3 if you hadn't played the previous title. As to why, well, you see, a few years down the road should this website go away, then you the player will be stuck with whatever the quote default world state is. Not a huge deal, but if you are a big fan of the other two games and plan to continue playing them, it makes that somewhat pointless going through to the third game. And if they continue it, so on. Now again, this is a hypothetical. May never be an issue, but I do feel the need to bring it up. That said, let's get into the game. The game begins a year after the events of Dragon Age 2, with a conclave between mages and Templars hosted by the Divine of the Chantry. Needless to say, it goes badly as a massive explosion kills everyone within the conclave save for one, your player character. They emerge from the explosion with a strange glow on his or her hand. This is where the tutorial takes over and we learn that the explosion of the conclave created something in the sky called the Breach. More than that, we learn that the Breach is a portal into a place called the Fade, where demons and spirits reside. If the hole is not closed, it's going to swallow the world. This has also resulted in demons pouring out of many rifts all over the land. After an elven mage named Solus shows you can use your power to close the rift, your mission becomes clear. Find the villain who destroyed the conclave and seal the breach. Now let's begin with the story. This is a fantastic story from beginning to very satisfying conclusion. It has twists and turns you don't see coming, and the story really is tailored by how you play. In fact, there are massive differences depending on little decisions throughout the entire playthrough, making multiple playthroughs nearly a must. It's also one of the only stories that I've played that actually feels like you are building an organization from the ground up. By the end, you feel like your actions were what built the power base, and not an arbitrary menu you went through over and over again. Next we move to gameplay, which takes a massive step forward for the series, while stumbling back in some areas. There are two ways to play the game. You have Action Mode, which is more akin to Dragon Age 2, only slower and less arcade feeling. For those who want the old style RPG, you have the Second Mode. This is very much a strategy game, with you deciding each move and moving time forward at your own pace. This is perfect for higher difficulties. Even on lower difficulty, you can use this mode to set up your opening attack and then jump into the action. Now you may ask, are there any negatives of the gameplay, and I would say yes. Navigation of the play zone can be a little difficult, and more than once I was wishing for a Skyrim horse to just climb the mountains.
Anyway, feel it, Shadowmere. Oh my god, he lived like a fucking horse.
Another negative is leveling up. Now it is very much streamlined. You choose your ability points, yes. However, things like strength, constitution, dexterity, they are pre-assigned by whatever character/race you have chosen. This means if you normally play, example, a dual-wield rogue with high constitution, you can't do that anymore. That can be very frustrating for fans of the other two games in the series. And admittedly, that's not where the streamlining ends. For example, you're limited to how many potions you can carry, which in some cases arbitrarily makes the game feel more difficult. Whereas before you could simply arm up with a ton of potions and you'd be fine. They've also removed healing magic from the game, which again makes the game a lot more difficult. Now if you saw my earlier video about bugs and glitches, which I will link below, you'll know there were a ton day one. And some of them still very much exist. However, I will say the latter half of the game seems to have a lot less bugs than the first half, and I found myself enjoying the game a lot more with a lot less frustration. I've also found a lot less freezing as I've gone further into the game, which frankly baffles me, but whatever. Now, does the game end the trilogy well? Personally, I would say yes. By the end of it, I felt much the same as I did after Dragon Age Origins. I felt the journey had ended, even if there were still stories to be told. This is an amazing game, and honestly, if not for the bugs and frustration the first half of the game I played, it would probably get a much higher score. That said, the final verdict for Dragon Age Inquisition is a 4 out of 5. This game is phenomenally good. It's one of the best I've seen from BioWare in quite a few years, and it definitely is a return to form for a company that had definitely been slipping over the last couple of years. This game has definitely done a lot to restore my faith in BioWare storytelling, and I definitely look forward to the next installment. Until next time, my name is Goose saying thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next review.